Part 35. Super Role Player. Author, Yuan-san Buletinji. Chapter 359. Before the start of the new season, as usual, ESPN will do. The reporters responsible for this issue are different every year. For example, this year, the reporter responsible for the season preview has become Zach Lovey, an expert reporter who has not been employed for long. Zach Lowe is a master of data analysis in the NBA. His favorite and best thing is data analysis. Once he analyzed 20,000 characters through data analysis for the Spurs playoff game against the Thunder, and finally came to the conclusion that the Spurs, after sweeping the Thunder in 4 games, no one believed him at the time, but in the end, the Spurs swept the Thunder. Therefore, it is expected that Zach Lowe, who is a statistician, will do the season preview. In order to make the most satisfying, effective and objective season preview, Zach Lovey dragged it for a few weeks, preparing to wait until the end of the preseason and when the teams really determined the final 15-man squad before passing the season. The analysis of the pre-match and the analysis of the players of each team made the best season preview. Now that Zach Lowe thinks so, ESPN's editorial department naturally agreed, but the preseason has just begun and the regular season is about to begin. The warm-up for the new season must be done, so ESPN chose to let Zach Lowe concentrate. For the season preview, let Mark Stein and Henry Abbott be responsible for the new season warm-up topic during this period. As a result, the 76ers who just returned to the United States became Henry Abbott's first prediction object. In Henry Abbott's words, "I'm used to predicting from the team with the lowest strength, so my prediction is the team is the Orlando Magic, the second team is the Los Angeles Lakers, and the third team is the Philadelphia 76ers. In other words, the 76ers are the third worst team in Henry Abbott's eyes. But the 76ers have not yet spoken out, and the Lakers have disagreed first. Last season, they still had an F4 team. Before the season, you said I was the second worst team in the league. How could I agree? Therefore, the Lakers media first stood up to refute Henry Abbott's views, and then the Lakers players also stood up. And Henry Abbott's purpose was for the Black Lakers. He didn't pay attention to the 76ers at all. Both the 76ers and the Magic were shot while lying down. The Magic is fortunate. Last season was originally the bottom one. This season, the signings were not good, and he signed only one second-place Victor Oladipo, which is really bad. The 76ers really disagree. Although Sam Hinki's transfer operation is incomprehensible, at least the 76ers also introduced the new Finals MVP. How can it be said that it is the third worst in the league? What about the team? If it's about sending away the core players in the team, the Jazz in the West and the Bucks in the East are obviously doing it. The Jazz let Al Jefferson and Paul Millsap free, and there are no new signings. For the Bucks, they released Monta Ellis for free, signed O.J. Mayo instead, sent Brandon Jennings away, in exchange for Brandon Knight, plus J.J. Redick and Mike Dunleavy. After leaving, the strength of the Bucks also declined very seriously. And now, in the eyes of Henry Abbott, the 76ers who signed Anzi away and signed Anzi became the third worst team in the league, surpassing the Jazz and Bucks. In Henry Abbott's reasoning for prediction, he said this: the Philadelphia 76ers' Sam Hinkie is obviously a rookie who has just become the general manager. He sent away Jrue Holiday, who has proven himself. In exchange for a rookie named Nerlens Noel, he has been reimbursed for the season, and will not help the 76ers this season. In addition to letting go of Nick Young and Dorell Wright, the Sixers' goals for the new season seem to have turned into a stalemate, but at this time they signed Anzi again and entered the Finals MVP. Yes, this name is very loud, but it is only that. Anzi only broke out in 4 games. Strictly speaking, he only broke out in 2 games, the first game of the Finals and the third game of the Finals. He broke out, and then? Can a player who has not proven himself become their new head star? Can a player who has not proven himself get 10 million annual salary? Look at the 76ers lineup. Perhaps Angzi can be considered a qualified starter. With Evan Turner, Thaddeus Young, and Spencer Hawes, they can also have a good-looking starting lineup. But the shortcomings of this starting lineup are already obvious. There is no defense and the lack of point guards. Some people say Angzi can defend. Can he help defend? Can he support a team's defense like LeBron James? Some people say that the point guard has Mkaway as the number 11 rookie. So here comes the second question. Sam Sinke actually chose Mkaway with the 11th overall pick. He has height, no shots, no shots. A powerful point guard, does he really have a foothold in this league today? After analyzing the 76ers lineup, Henry Abbott also analyzed the 76ers' 2 Chinese games. In the 2 Chinese games, the 76ers all ended in losing. The preseason loss is nothing, especially this kind of exhibition game. But in the 2 preseason games, the 76ers have signed Angzi the most. In the first game, he scored 22 points and 4 assists. In the second game, he only scored 15 points when playing time increased. Obviously, his strength is not as strong as people think. As for the number 11 rookie, Mkaway, the performance in the 2 games can't be worse. Mkaway can't even start for the 76ers, and he won't even be able to play as a substitute in the future. And what do you think of ESPN's preseason reviews? Only 3 or 4 days before the preseason play a game, Angzi back to the United States became very leisurely. Brett Brown lay a newspaper in front of him, which reproduced Henry Abbott's prediction and evaluation of the 76ers. Angzi glanced at the newspaper, and then said indifferently, "Brett, in the next game, you let me play for a while, and I will let Henry Abbott know why his face is so swollen." Brett Brown nodded, "No problem." Angzi hesitated for a while, thought about it, or asked, "What about Michael?" "Michael," Brett Brown touched his chin. "The next game, he will continue to substitute." Angzi wanted to ask why, but he knew that it was Brett Brown's right to line up troops, but Brett Brown also saw Angzi's doubts. He smiled, "Wait, Michael will gradually break out, now it's not the best time for him to start." Super Role Player. Author, Yuan San Buletinji. Chapter 360. Back in the first preseason game in the United States, the 76ers played away against the New York Knicks in the same district. This season the Knicks left their main lineup, which was almost successful last season. Although Jason Kidd announced his retirement, they still signed Beno Udrih and Pablo Prigioni as a replacement, plus Raymond DeFelton. The strength of the point guard has not changed. Inside, Tyson Chandler stayed on the team, the backup center signed Jeremy Taylor, the power forward was a rotation of Amal Stoudemire and Kenyon Martin, small forward Carmelo Anthony, and also signed C.I. World Ping, shooting guard J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert rotate. From the book, the Knicks this season will still be a strong contender for the top 3 in the Eastern Conference. The 76ers game against the Knicks was just a preseason game, but both teams desperately needed a victory. The 76ers lost 2 consecutive games in the China game, and the Knicks lost to the basket in the first 2 preseason games. Network. Losing in the preseason is nothing, especially for the 76ers, who originally had no plan to win. But it's different for a strong team like the Knicks. After losing streak in the preseason, they have been questioned, especially the 2-game losing streak to the Nets who just moved to Brooklyn. From the beginning of the season, the Nets will become the Knicks' opponents in the same city. After losing 2 games in a row, the Knicks have met the 76ers, their old opponents in the same district. After losing 2 games in a row, the Knicks can no longer lose. So in this game, the Knicks' goal is to win, and they feel that it is not difficult to win against the bad team of the 76ers. However, Mike Woodson still attaches great importance to this game. He has the strongest lineup of the Knicks: point guard Raymond Felton, shooting guard Iman Shumpert, small forward Carmelo Anthony, and power forward Marstadamir and center Tyson Chandler. For the 76ers, the point guard became Sean Livingston, the shooting guard Angzi, the small forward Evan Turner, the power forward Thaddeus Young, and the center is still Spencer Hawes. The game started quickly, and there was cheering from the sidelines of Madison Square Garden Arena. Tyson Chandler grabbed the ball and Raymond Felton took possession of the ball and advanced to the front court. Generally speaking, the preseason lack of attention, but this is also to divide the team. If it is the Knicks, especially the current Knicks, then there is no lack of attention, although it is just an ordinary in the preseason. The 20,000 seats in the Madison Square Garden Arena were still full, and the great director Spike Lee did not miss the game. At the beginning of the game, Spike Lee was still a bit quiet, but when Raymond Felton strode past Sean Livingston and scored 2 points for a layup, Spike Lee suddenly jumped from his front seat. "Stand up. Good job, Raymond." The audience on the sidelines cheered, and the atmosphere of the New York home court was revealed. When the 76ers were on the offensive, there were shouts of defense from the sidelines. The goal of Angzi in this game is to prove himself. He has already said to Brett Brown that he will attack more with the ball in this game. The tactical arrangement before the game, Brett Brown also mentioned that Angzi can take the ball more. So Sean Livingston passed halftime, Angzi ran back and received the basketball. The defender of Angzi is Iman Shumpert, who can be regarded as a professional outside defense player. He entered the league in the same year as Angzi. He was selected as the best rookie team in his rookie season, but the rookie is the pinnacle. In the past few seasons, Iman Shumpert has attacked. The performance of the Knicks has declined slightly, and the defensive end has maintained a high level. He is currently the most trusted defensive player on the outside of the Knicks. Therefore, the pressure on Angzi in this game is still quite high. Iman Shumpert's defense is very aggressive. He constantly presses Angzi with his body. Angzi's first attack has become very difficult, see Thaddeus Young. Therefore, he quickly withdrew from the inside line and stood at a 45-degree angle. Angzi accelerated with the ball and walked around Thaddeus Young. With a bang, Iman Shumpert directly ran into Thaddeus Young, and Angzi accelerated again, and directly threw off Marstadamir, who was defending, rushed into the interior and jumped high. A raised arm, and slammed the basketball into the hoop with a bang. After the pick and roll, he rushed into the inside dunk. Angzi's first goal back to the United States, scored beautifully. Tencent Sports broadcasted the game live. Angzi's first goal was a dunk, and Ma Jian, who explained the game, was a little excited. It can be seen from this ball that Angzi has cultivated a tacit understanding with his new teammates. This is very important. The biggest problem for overseas players, especially Chinese players, after arriving in the United States is not the issue of strength, but the communication with teammates. It seems that Wai Sun Yu failed in the NBA because he didn't know how to communicate with those American teammates, let alone the cooperation in the game. The US League actually had this problem. Before Angzi, the best thing was naturally Dao is now. However, from this ball, we can see that Angzi has surpassed Dao. After only 1 month of training with his American teammates, he can already cooperate very tacitly. With one goal, Angzi couldn't get a chance in individual singles. Thaddeus Young directly went up and gave Angzi a pick and roll. Ma Jian is a bit exaggerated, but the question is still very thorough. Why is it difficult for Chinese players to succeed in the NBA? In fact, there is a very important reason, that is, communicating with teammates and cultivating tacit understanding with teammates. The 76ers also scored and the two sides tied with 2:2, but the arrogant shouting after Angzi dunks made Madison Square Garden a bit unhappy, booing Angzi frantically. Raymond Felton took the ball in the front court and then gave the basketball to Carmelo Anthony. Anzi took the initiative to switch to Anthony. Spike Lee on the sidelines kept yelling, "Mero! Blast him! Blast him!" Carmelo Anthony put on a threatening posture, shook Anzi for a while, then pulled up the shot directly, against Anzi's interference, made a mid-range shot. Swish, come in. Good job. Spike Lee on the sideline was excited like a clown, constantly jumping around the sidelines. Anzi didn't care. He had already defended the goal, and Anthony was still able to score. He had no choice but to say that Anthony felt very hot in this game. In the next offense, Anzi played around without the ball, received the ball through the bottom line, and slammed another dunk. The fans at Madison Square Garden Stadium didn't know what to say anymore. An 11 dunked 2 goals in the opening game, and then an 11 was very arrogant to celebrate. They had to boo and hit an 11 back. Only Spike Lee still insisted on asking Anthony to blow Anzi. Pakistan medium small speaking net super role player // You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super role player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletinji. Chapter 361. Carmelo Anthony was in a good state in this game. Facing Anzi's defense, he hit a mid-range shot again. The score between the two teams continued to tie. Spike Lee sat down contentedly. Women.law. But looking back, Anzi directly passed the run and scored a three-pointer in the open space. Then Carmelo Anthony's mid-range shot finally missed, and the 76ers who grabbed the rebounds had another wave of fast breaks. Anzi received Turner's pass and another dunk in the front court. After 3 rounds, the 76ers led the Knicks 9-4. Spike Lee exploded. He was still applauding Anthony's CIC the moment before. The next second, the 76ers shot 2 waves of offense, leading by 5 points. Spike Lee was a little impatient. He seemed to suddenly become the head coach of the Knicks, replacing Mike Woodson, constantly gave orders from the sidelines. However, the Knicks' offense has really improved. Carmelo Anthony has found the problem. Anzi's defense is very strong. He scored 4 points on his personal ability, but this 4 points were obtained by his hand, and he took the third shot. At the time, he didn't make it because Anzi's defense has always been in place. So, Anthony suddenly changed the direction of attack. He started holding the ball to attract the defense, and then divided the ball. After the 76ers fast break, Raymond Felton came to the front court with the ball, and Anthony received the ball at the top of the arc and once again assumed a 3-threat pose. It seemed that he was going to come by himself, but after shaking Anzi twice, Anthony suddenly hit the ground and passed the ball. Tyson Chandler dunks the ball inside and scored 2 points. Madison sounded the sound of an explosion, and there was a burst of cheers. Then, an 11 broke through to attract the defense. Anthony and Iman Shumpert double-teamed an 11 together. An 11 did not choose to be strong by himself. He chose to pass the ball. Evan Turner made an open 3-pointer and knocked the iron. Did not score, the Knicks quickly pushed the ball to the front court. It was Anthony. He shook Anzi a few times with the ball. After finding that Anzi had not leaked a flaw, another pass was passed to Iman Shumpert, who was cutting air especially. After Shumpert attracted the defense, he scored the ball again. Raymond Felton scored a 3-pointer from the outside and scored with a scream. Raymond Felton. Raymond Felton's 3-pointer is tied. 9-9. This preseason game was unexpectedly wonderful. Anzi personally took the ball. The opening was tied at 9-9. Anzi took the ball on his own, but the CIC did not score. The Knicks got the opportunity to widen the point difference, and Anthony did not miss this opportunity. He withstood Anzi's defense and made a strong 3-pointer. Madison Square Garden Arena was completely excited. At 12:09, the Knicks started to take the lead. Spike Lee shouted excitedly, "Go, go. Break the 76 ERS." The atmosphere in the arena is a great bonus to the players. Amidst the cheers of the court, the Knicks defended a wave of offense from the 76ers. Thaddeus Young missed a close-range jumper and Tyson Chandler LE grabbed the rebound. The Knicks played a fast break in the front court. Raymond Felton made a fast break layup, scored 2 points, 14:9. After being hit by the Knicks in 2 consecutive waves, an 11 personally took the basketball. Then he slammed the basketball and faced Iman Shumpert with his back, and Iman Shumpert stubbornly withstood Angzi. Angzi leaned back a little, felt Iman Shumpert's defensive center of gravity, and then suddenly swayed to the left. Iman Shumpert did not eat, he just moved a little half a step towards the right side, and continued to lean against Angzi. At this moment, Angzi suddenly turned to the right, then turned and leaned back. Looping back jumper. Almost everyone thought that Angzi was about to turn around and leaned back to shoot a jumper. This technical action had become Angzi's iconic technical action after Kobe Bryant was seriously injured. Therefore, Iman Shumpert rushed forward. Angzi looked at Shumpert, who was leaping towards him, and suddenly sent the basketball forward with both hands in the air. Snapped. There was a crisp sound of thugs, Angzi hissed and moaned, and Iman Shumpert's thugs were a bit cruel. With a beep, the referee whistled, but this is not over yet. The basketball flew over the hoop and went straight into it. Goal in. Foul. Add penalties. Angzi bounced. The ball was a counter-attack after a continuous failure, so he was very excited, but his excitement was extremely provocative in the eyes of the Knicks fans, so for a while, boos flooded the entire arena. Angzi's turn and throw caused Iman Shumpert's foul, and the ball was scored. The goal is scored and the penalty is added. The 76ers can narrow the point difference, but the game has just hit this point. 4 or 5 points behind is nothing. No, if Angzi's penalty is added, the point difference is only 2 points left. It's a ball thing. There is no problem with extra penalties. Angzi's free throws have always been his strong point. In the live broadcast of Tencent Sports, Ma Jian and Lu Jiachao analyzed Angzi's 2-1, and Angzi also stepped to the free throw line when they commented. Then with a scream, he steadily hits and penalizes. 14-12, the Knicks continued to attack. Stoudemire on the inside line received the ball, stormed Thaddeus Young, and after shaking off Thaddeus Young, he made a layup. Then, the 76ers offense was still Angzi singles Iman Shumpert with the ball, and the same was back to play. After sitting down and hitting twice, Angzi shook Shumpert and didn't move away. Seeing that the offensive time was short, Angzi turned and leaned back to make a jumper and hit it with a scream. The two teams each added 2 points, 16-14. Anthony faced Angzi's defense and made a strong mid-range shot, which made a bang. But when he turned his head, Angzi's fallback jumper also hit the iron, and the point difference was still 2 points. After missing a goal, Anthony did not force himself again. He did not hold the ball and led Angzi to run around. Raymond Felton seized an opportunity, rushed into the interior, made a layup, and Madison Square. There was another cheering in the Garden Arena. At 18-14, the Knicks continued to lead. Raymond Felton scored again. Although Angzi's offense is very hard, the 76ers' first 14 points were scored by Angzi alone, but their defense is really a bit worse, and they can hardly prevent the Knicks' offense. Lu Jiachao watched the game for the first half of the quarter, and briefly analyzed the situation in this half of the game. Ma Jian clearly sees better than Lu Jiachao. It's not just the offense that relies on Angzi, but the defense also relies on Angzi. Anthony contributed to the Knicks several strikes, and who did Anthony defend? It's Angzi. Looking at it this way, Angzi is on the offensive and defensive side in the 76ers. This game is really difficult. Lu Jiachao nodded suddenly. The game was very difficult and the teammates were still a bit unreliable. Angzi could only continue to do it alone. Continue to play singles with the back. This time, frightened by Angzi's backward jumper, when Angzi turned around, Anthony directly wrapped up, so Angzi chose to pass the ball. He still hopes his teammates can stand up. Evan Turner received the ball, but he did not choose to jump directly. He had missed an open three-pointer before, which seemed to be uncomfortable. After receiving the ball, no one defended him. Turner chose to cut in with the ball. Anthony quickly withdrew back. Iman Shumpert also quickly wrapped up. He didn't form a tacit understanding with Anthony, and he just wrapped Angzi. I missed Evan Turner, and when I turned around to make up for Evan Turner, I missed Angzi again. Evan Turner would naturally not miss this opportunity. He passed the basketball back again. Angzi caught the ball with an open jumper and scored a goal very easily. But what makes Angzi feel depressed is that he scored the goal and scored his goals. At 18-16, Angzi had already swept the team's first 16 points, which seemed a bit scary. The game continued. Raymond Felton broke through, his layup finally missed. Angzi started to run to the front court at the moment when the basketball didn't make it. Angzi opened his hand for the ball, and Hawes, who grabbed the rebound, slammed the basketball. The long pass landed in front of Angzi accurately. Angzi took the basketball, jumped up, changed hands, and clashed. Loud noise. "Oh God," Turner sports commentator exclaimed, because Angzi directly showed a crotch. This is a slam dunk action that only appears in the slam dunk contest. Angzi used it in actual combat. Hip. Change hands and dunk. Is Angzi high? The points difference has been equalized, and Angzi is indeed hilarious. In the live broadcast of Tencent Sports, Angzi's equalizer goal sparked a heated discussion between Lu Jiachao and Ma Jian. Angzi directly swept all the 76ers scores. In the first half of the first quarter, he has already scored 18 points. What do you think of Ma coaching? Does Angzi have a chance to score a super high score today? Ma Jian nodded directly. Angzi is in very good form today. If he continues to play like this, he is very likely to score a super high score in this game. However, in this preseason, Angzi may finish the first quarter. I won't be on it. Lu Jiachao was stunned for a moment, and then said, if you can't follow, it would be a pity. It is impossible for Angzi not to be behind. His goal in this game is to win and win a beautiful stat to prove himself. But even after scoring 18 points, Angzi also felt that if he continued to fight like this, his strength would definitely be too much for him, so after that, Angzi gradually increased his passing. The 76ers, who fell behind for a short time, pulled the gap back with Angzi's efforts, and then the two teams fell into a stalemate. With 1 minute left in the first quarter, the score became 32-32. Both teams scored high points. The game in the first quarter looked like an undefended match. In the last minute of the game, the Knicks had the ball, and Carmelo Anthony held the ball to face Angzi and hit back. Shaking left and right twice, Angzi didn't eat it, so Anthony's fake action had no effect, and time was running out. Anthony suddenly turned around and sent the ball out with his right hand. He wanted to make a layup and Angzi slashed in. Killed out, with a snap, the basketball was instantly fanned. With a bang, Madison screamed, and the time on the timer was frozen, 1.2 seconds. The Knicks only had 1.2 seconds of offense left in this round. So as soon as the basketball came out, Angzi pounced directly on it, with a bang. It really was an iron strike. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen San Buletinji. Chapter 362. Anthony's shot was iron, and backup center Cole Aldridge protected the rebound. With the last seconds left in the first quarter, the Knicks worked very defense, and they didn't want to make a wave of fast breaks. Because as long as the time is delayed, the Knicks will have the right to the last attack of the first quarter. However, Angzi obviously won't let this opportunity pass. He directly passed the basketball and rushed to the front at his fastest speed. Evan Turner was also very fast, and the two rushed to the front. On the Knicks side, Raymond Felton and the substitute Smith also quickly returned to defense, so the front court formed a 2-on-2. An 11 suddenly changed direction and rushed to the basket. Raymond Felton and Smith immediately wrapped up. Angzi scored the ball directly. Evan Turner on the other side took advantage of the layup. With a scream, he made a layup and scored. People overtake the score. Madison booed loudly, and even the Knicks players started to take the ball. The boos did not mean to stop. There are seconds left in the game. No matter how the Knicks attack, people will have the right to the last attack, so people organized the defense in a hurry. After Anthony held the ball in the arc, he faced Angzi with his back and Smith ran. The bit left Evan Turner, caught the ball and took a three-pointer, and hit the iron with a bang. Not in. The Madison Square Garden Arena, which had just stopped boozing, let out an exclamation. The rebound was already in the hands of Thaddeus Young. With the last seconds left in the first quarter, Thaddeus Young hurriedly passed the ball. Angzi received the basketball and rushed to the front court with the ball. There was not much time left. Angzi adjusted a little and went straight to a three-pointer. OM. As the timer buzzed, Angzi's buzzer went into the basket with a scream. 3 points. The goal is scored. 3 points at the buzzer. At the end of the first quarter, people, points ahead of the Knicks. After summarizing the scores of the two teams, Lou Giacchio set his sights on Angzi's technical statistics. Angzi scored points in a single quarter. It's a pity. This is just a preseason game. The statistical data is not included in the historical data. Ma Jian also nodded, in a single quarter, Angzi has taken up the offense by himself, and there is no need to prove his strength. In Miami, USA, Henry Abbott, who had just finished the preseason interview, returned to the hotel. His face was filled with satisfaction and excitement. Just now, he told Pat Riley that he would list the Heat as the biggest favorite for the new season championship. Pat Riley looked like "You are too right," and then carefully described the signings of the Heat in the new season. In the new season, the Heat left the big three and did not cleanse any of them, including the so-called fake giant Chris Bosh, and then pacified LeBron James. In accordance with LeBron James's request, he signed and sent Mike away. Miller, in exchange for a second-round pick and Juan's special trade exception, and then used that trade to get the second-round pick and Juan's trade exception to introduce Luke Richard Barmott from the Bucks. LeBron James got the perimeter single defense player he wanted, Luke Richard Barmott. The Heat who got Barmott are also looking forward to an infinite future. This time, they no longer lack the elements necessary to win the championship. Henry Abbott, who returned to the hotel, was pulled by his assistant. "Henry, big business is not good." His assistant looked a little anxious. Henry Abbott was still smiling. "What's the matter? Didn't you say that Angzi in Philadelphia is just a starting level player?" Henry Abbott stopped smiling, but he nodded, taking it for granted. "That's right. But he scored points in a single quarter in the preseason game between the People and the Knicks. Now the game has just entered the second quarter, just in case." Before the assistant had finished speaking, Henry Abbott speeded up his pace, rushed into his room, and then turned on the TV. The game between the Knicks and People continues. The game has entered the second half of the second quarter. Angzi took a rest for half of the quarter and just relaunched. After watching the score on the TV, Henry Abbott was relieved. The Knicks are still in the lead. There is not a big problem. People will lose this game anyway. Then he looked at his assistant again. "By the way, Tim, you just said that China got points in a single quarter. The assistant who called Tim nodded again. Yes, it's a single quarter on the TV. Anxi, who reappeared again, took the ball again, and Madison Square Garden Arena promptly booed. You see, the Knicks fans started booing him as soon as China got the ball. This kid's outbreak is really troublesome, but it doesn't matter. No matter how he breaks out, people still have to lose. They are still a bad team. Henry Abbott touched his chin and said thoughtfully. Anxi took a half-quarter break, and when he re-entered the game, Ren had already gone from the leading points at the end of the first quarter to backward points. Obviously, there was still a certain gap between Ren and the Knicks in terms of the strength of the bench. After half a quarter, an 11 reappeared in order to chase points. In fact, a single quarter is enough for Anxi to prove himself, but in this game, Anxi still wants to win. After returning to the field, Anxi's teammates have also changed. The center is Cole Aldridge, the power forward is a cameo by Byron Mullins, the 2-meter big form the Twin Towers, and the small forward is Jack Law. Germany, point guard Nkaway. The strength of this bench lineup is actually pretty good, but they have no choice but to encounter a raging Smith and a Kenyon Martin who constantly rages on the rim, plus Carmelo Anthony who reappeared before Anxi. It is not surprising that people are behind. Up. On the court, Anxi received the basketball with a boo, and then quickly drove it twice with his left and right hands, one cross step and then a right turn, past Smith, and rushed directly to the basket in 3 or 2 steps. Kenyon Martin, who was guarding the basket, threw out directly and opened his arms towards Anxi. Anxi didn't even look at Kenyon Martin. He held the ball in both hands and sent it to the floor. A hitting pass was made. Cole Aldridge under the basket caught the ball and pulled up a dunk. He made a dull sound. There was a loud noise in the arena. Pretty. Anxi's beautiful pass, Cole Aldridge dunks and scored. Maybe Mike Woodson should consider replacing Iman Shumpert. Smith can't help Anxi. Mike Woodson did not make a substitution, so the game continued. Beno Udrih took possession of the ball and advanced to the front court. Carmelo Anthony jammed Jack Lauder with his back and received the ball in singles. Jack Lauder was on the court and Anxi did not change defense against Anthony, so Anthony chose to play singles. Jack Lauder's defense is still a little worse than Anxi, mainly due to the gap in experience. Anthony is a probe, but also without shaking his body, Jack Lauder took a step in the direction of the probing step. As a result, Anthony turned directly in the opposite direction, shot a jumper, and hit with a scream. Spike Lee, who was somewhat silent in the first quarter, became active again after the Knicks took the lead in the second quarter. Anthony shook off Jack Lauder and hit a jumper. Spike Lee jumped up directly. Good job, Melo. Squash them. But in the next second, Anxi scored a three-pointer in the front court, and Spike Lee was directly held back. Anxi took the ball directly from the back court. He rushed to the front court and made a three-pointer. Gosh. Got in. Anxi feels hot. He has already scored 30 points. In Miami, Henry Abbott frowned. The 30 points in the commentator's mouth made him clearer. Anxi has scored 30 points. The halftime is not over. Anxi's game really broke out. He slapped Henry Abbott in the face severely. One day ago, he was still saying that Anxi was looked up high. One day later, Anxi hit Henry Abbott in the face with 27 points in a single quarter. And now, Anxi is still scoring. Anxi's fiery touch is still continuing. Of course, the 76ers are still behind. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletinji. Chapter 363. He scored 3 points before halftime, and Anxi handed in a perfect answer. Zach Lovey is also paying attention to this game. He cannot ignore the Knicks, the second team in the Eastern Conference last season. For the 76ers, Zach Lovey is also a little confused about the current situation of the 76ers. In his opinion, after sending away Zu Holiday and signing Anxi, These two operations are completely contradictory, so Zach Lowe is a bit confused about the goals of the 76ers in the new season. But after watching this game, Zach Lowe probably had an idea. Halftime 3-0 points, perhaps higher. Angzi's strength has clearly reached the level of league superstars. The 76ers who own Angzi clearly cannot be underestimated in the new season's strength. Therefore, Zach Lowe played in the previously determined rankings. Made a fork. It seems that I have to watch a few more 76ers games. On the field, the 76ers are still behind by 3 points. They have just defended a wave of offense from the Knicks, and now they have the ball. Michael Carter-Williams is holding the ball. In this game, his performance is still a bit bad. He missed 3 consecutive shots, but his possession is still very stable. Let's see how the 76ers play this ball. Angzi stood at the bottom corner for a while. Byron Mullins had already stood at the middle distance, and then Angzi suddenly took a step forward, taking the degree to the extreme, and rushing towards the 3-point line. Angzi. He walked around, covered by Byron Mullins. Angzi is empty. 3 points. Turner sports commentator opened his mouth wide, and the next second, he shouted, "Go in." A 3-pointer. Angzi's 2 consecutive 3-pointers, the 76ers evened the score. Spike Lee was cursing from the sidelines. Mike Woodson frowned, called a timeout, and replaced Iman Shumpert. After Iman Shumpert played, Angzi's defensive pressure was a little less. After all, Shumpert was not a nerve knife like Smith, and it was much easier to defend. So defending and defending, Angzi can take care of the defense. When Anthony took the ball with his back and turned to make a jumper, Angzi directly lost Shumpert and rushed to make up the defense, helping Jack Lauder to defend Anthony's turn of the jumper. The basketball hit the edge of the basket, and then quickly bounced out. Cole Aldridge stuck Kenyon Martin behind him and took the basketball directly. Angzi asked for the ball at the free throw line, and Cole Aldridge gave the basketball directly. Get out. The Knicks retired very quickly. It was mainly when Angzi threw on Anthony's side, they felt that the goal could not be scored, so the 2 guards retired first. Anthony originally wanted to grab a rebound, but Cole Aldridge's guard position was so good, he directly stuck Kenyon Martin, and then easily grabbed the rebound. But fortunately, Iman Shumpert quickly retired. The 76ers failed to make a fast break. Angzi advanced to the front court with the ball, and then faced Shumpert again. Iman Shumpert forced it over and Angzi assumed a 3-threat pose. Angzi is now an offensive kaleidoscope, with breakthroughs, 3-pointers and mid-range shots, as well as backs and lows, plus an emergency stop jumper. With a fallback jumper, Angzi's offense can also be overwhelming. Therefore, when Angzi held the ball in a 3-threat pose, Iman Shumpert was still under great pressure. He had to open his arms and wanted to surround Angzi. Angzi never changed. He observed the Knicks' penalty area, and then suddenly started in one step and wiped it from Iman Shumpert's left side. Kenyon Martin, who was inside the Knicks, saw this and quickly made up his defense. Coming over, he again missed Cole Aldridge. So Angzi hit the ground and passed the ball through Kenyon Martin's crotch and came directly to Cole Aldridge's hands. With a loud bang, Cole Aldridge dunked and the 76ers took the lead. Nice dunk, Angzi attracted the defense. The insider Cole Aldridge caught the ball and dunked. It seems Cole Aldridge can stay in Philadelphia. This game he performed very well. On the field, Jack Lauder once again faced Carmelo Anthony with the ball. Anthony also assumed a 3-threat pose. As a long-established offensive kaleidoscope in the league, Anthony has a variety of offensive methods, although Jack Lauder's defense is serious. But the ball was caught off guard by Anthony. Anthony turned around, shook Jack Lauder, and then suddenly turned around, leaned forward, and sent the basketball into the basket. There was a cheer from Madison Square Garden Arena. Carmelo Anthony showed his muscles, and Jack Lauder turned a little depressed to the ball. In the 76ers offense, Anzi still took the ball, but it was still not him who scored this time. Jack Lauder found an opportunity and inserted a reverse run diagonally into the penalty area. Anzi made a reverse hang and Jack Lauder received the ball and layup. Get 2 points. Crowder returned a goal to Anthony on the offensive end, but returning to the defensive end, he still failed to prevent Anthony's offense. Anthony made a single play with the basket, turned the basket and got 2 points. The score continued to be tied, but in the next wave of the 76ers offense, Anzi suddenly shot a three-pointer from the outside, and entered again with a scream. 36 points in halftime. The 76ers also led by 3 points. With little time left in the second quarter, Carmelo Anthony ran back to catch the ball, and Anzi applied for a defense. He slammed directly in front of Anthony, and the two met again. Anzi personally defended Anthony. It seems that he wants to keep the 76ers' current lead. Anthony was in control of the ball and suddenly came a crotch dribble. He took a half step back and then another cross step. After the ball was handed over from the crotch to the right hand, there was another backside dribble immediately, continuous dribbling. Anzi was also shaken twice by the fake action. At this moment, Anthony suddenly leaned forward and made a false move of breaking through from Anzi's right side. Then, taking advantage of Anzi's time to make up the defense to the right, he instantly adjusted his center of gravity back, and then broke through from Anzi's left side. An 11 also swiftly adjusted his defensive focus, and the whole person quickly posted, but Anthony still got the space to break through and rushed into the three-point line against an 11. When Anzi completely withstood Anthony's breakthrough, Anthony stopped, then turned back and directly connected to a back-turned jumper, just like that. In order to avoid Anzi's interference, Anthony added a bit of backwards, but Anzi is obviously not that easy to fool. Anthony's shot is not easy, but if Anthony is really to shoot like this, it is almost a goal, because Anthony. The angle has been found, and the shot was taken after aiming. Therefore, Anzi's approach is also very simple. He has an advantage in jumping, so he pulled up directly and stretched out his long arm to pounce on the basketball. With a snap, Anthony's body just leaned back a bit, Anzi's big hand was already on the basketball. Then, Anzi grabbed the basketball with a big hand. With a bang, the commentator yelled, "Catch the risk." Anzi slumped Carmelo Anthony. And Anzi, who grabbed the basketball, would naturally not let go of this good opportunity, and directly shouted, "Quick break." Several members of the 76ers heard this shout and immediately reacted, especially when Jack Lauder, Anzi defended Anthony. He was always on one side to observe intensively. Anzi's defense opened his eyes, and Jack Lauder was the first to react when Anzi called out a fast break. He rushed towards the front court. Anzi's pass arrived soon. Clang! Jack Lauder dunks in the front court. The Philadelphia 76ers widened the points difference. Pretty, the 76ers bench was suddenly boiling. The bench players waved their towels. Time was running out in the first half, and the 76ers expanded the score. In the rest of the time, Anzi directly defended Anthony, not only allowed Jack Lauder to learn the experience of defending Anthony, but also allowed the 76ers to further expand the point difference. At the end of the first half, the 76ers led by Anzi next. It is already 7 points ahead. With a 7-point lead at halftime, the advantage is not very big, but this means that the 76ers have a chance to win the game, and Anzi, who scored 38 points at halftime, has completely proved himself. He won the game. The team scored more than half of the points, and the 76ers' lead in Anzi was indispensable. Brett Brown also noticed this. In the second half, he chose to let Anzi continue to play as a small forward. James Anderson was assigned to the shooting guard position. James Anderson has a certain three-point ability. He played in the preseason until now. Basically, a place to stay in the team has been locked. After partnering with Angzi on the wing in the third quarter, James Anderson's performance became even better, receiving consecutive passes from Angzi and hitting three-pointers from the outside. So after the third quarter began, to widen the points difference, and Angzi's personal score quickly exceeded 40 points. By the end of the third quarter, even if the Knicks made a full counterattack, the 76ers still got a 14-point lead, and Angzi's personal score also came to 46 points. Henry Abbott, who is far away in Miami, has no idea what to say. Angzi scored high points. The 76ers are about to win. The opponent who won the game was second in the Eastern Conference last season. In his new season warm-up, the Knicks also ranked third in the East, but the 76ers won third in the East. So Henry Abbott revealed that his prediction of the 76ers is only one that hasn't gotten a face, and that is Mkawa's strength, but is Mkawa important? Henry Abbott touched his chin and smiled. He felt that it was time for Mkawa to become important. In the fourth quarter of the game, Angzi's personal score exceeded 50, the 76ers also firmly controlled the situation on the court. The Knicks still want to counterattack. Madison's boo has made them realize that if they lose the game, the consequences of a three-game losing streak will be extremely terrifying. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletnji. Chapter 364. The Knicks' counterattack quickly came to an end. Angzi made two consecutive shots and ended the game with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. In the end, the game ended. Angzi scored 56 points and led the 76ers to a 117-109 victory, ending the two-game losing streak in the preseason and giving the Knicks a three-game losing streak. After the game, Henry Abbott's preseason warm-up was greatly questioned. Angzi hasn't proved himself yet. Is he overrated? Is it an overestimation to score 56 points in front of Iman Shumpert and Carmelo Anthony? Hasn't he yet to prove himself? The 76ers are the third worst team in the league. Is the 76ers who beat the Knicks still the third worst in the league? Obviously, Henry Abbott's preseason warm-up has been completely overturned by the fact that the 76ers defeated the Knicks. Before Henry Abbott had time to speak up, Zach Lowe said on his social network, "The Knicks have lost 3 straight in the preseason. The Knicks' strength is overestimated. Maybe they should be the edge of the Eastern Conference playoffs. The team, not the top 3 teams. As for the 76ers, it seems that their strength is definitely not the countdown." Zach Lowe directly slapped his colleague Henry Abbott in the face. As a data emperor, Zach Lowe's prediction is obviously more authoritative. So for a while, the discussion about the 76ers' performance in the new season suddenly became hot in North America. Stand up. Henry Abbott also admitted his mistake. Angzi's 56 points are enough to prove himself, but he still believes that the 76ers will not do much in the new season. Maybe the 76ers will not be the bottom of the league, but at least the 76ers are also a team outside of the Eastern Conference playoffs and are still a bad team. Henry Abbott made a starting list on his social networking site: point guard Sean Livingston, shooting guard Angzi, small forward Evan Turner, power forward Thaddeus Young, center Spencer Hawes. In this lineup, the point guard is Sean Livingston, who is only as a substitute. The center can only use Spencer Hawes, who does not have the ability to protect the basket. The biggest problem with this team is defense. The second problem is not qualified. The third problem is that there is no three-point firepower besides Angzi. The problem with this lineup is too big. Maybe they are not the bottom of the league, but at least they are also teams outside the playoffs. Henry Abbott's latest analysis has been recognized by many people. Henry Abbott's conversation turned directly to Mkawa. Michael Carter-Williams, the number 11 rookie this year, has been sluggish in 3 consecutive games. Perhaps he will be the first high-ranking rookie eliminated by the league in the new season. Suddenly, Nkaway received a lot of attention, and people did find that Nkaway's performance was a bit struggling. Needless to say, the performance of the two games in China does not need to be said. The 76ers won in the last game. Kawhi's performance was the worst in the 76ers. He made 1 of 4 shots and only got 2 points, 2 rebounds and 3 assists. When Henry Abbott turned his attention to Nkaway, some media even believed that the 76ers should choose to keep Eric Maynor and lay off Nkaway, because the veteran Maynor's performance is much better than Nkaway. Nkaway is under tremendous pressure. For him, this period should be the most difficult period of his career. The team failed to make a starter, his performance was poor, the media continued to criticize, and even the local Philadelphia fans are not optimistic. Sports reporter Bob Cooney of the Philadelphia Daily News wrote an exclusive report on Nkaway. As a reporter closely related to the 76ers, Bob Cooney is often allowed to enter the training hall to watch the 76ers training. So, Bob Cooney knows Nkaway very well in training games. He believes that Nkaway will definitely be able to adapt to the NBA and will definitely be able to grow into a qualified NBA starter, but Nkaway's state is now in a downturn. Therefore, he appealed to the 76ers fans to be patient. But Nkaway's performance is there. Local Philadelphia fans will still question Nkaway. They even questioned Bob Cooney. They believed that Bob Cooney was entrusted by the 76ers management. Alleviate criticism of Nkaway from the outside world. In the center of Philadelphia, in front of a newsstand in the Central Plaza, a few fans wearing the newly bought 76ers number 7 jerseys bought a new issue of the newspaper while showing off their jerseys to his partners. It is said that the Wachovia Center has been sold out. I am the last one. His partner looked envious. It cost a lot of money, Jim. Of course, this is the last one. The Jim fan raised his chin. Another of his friends has already bought the newspaper. The headline is Angzi, a big photo with 56 points of blood and blood. Jim, Tyrone, do you think Angzi will be the next Allen? The fan who just envied Jim was named Tyrone, and he nodded, of course, and will definitely lead us to rise again like Allen. Jim shook his head, no, and is an, he is not Allen, and will take the 76ers to become the bull of the new century like Michael Jordan back then. Yes. The bull of the new century. The three fans were a little excited. The fan holding the newspaper was named Kevin. He also smiled, and then turned the newspaper to the second page. The fan named Tyrone saw the headline on the second page at a glance, Michael Carter Williams, a sleeping lion. Jim immediately sneered, hey, who wrote this article? Samsinki chose a parallel importer, so he can actually become a fierce lion. Kevin, holding the newspaper, frowned, Bob Cooney. Bob Cooney? The old reporter, maybe he knows something inside, Tyrone said hesitantly. Jim immediately interrupted him, what's the inside story? Parallel imports are parallel imports. I made 1 of 4 shots in the preseason. There is nothing to say about this level. Michael Carter Williams, the name is good, Michael, Carter, and William. Muses. Kevin shook his head, let's take a look at the next game first. Nkaway was in a downturn. He didn't even know how to play. The training game that had performed well before began to make mistakes again and again. Brett Brown kept yelling at him, but the more he roared, Nkaway's performance became worse. The more sluggish. Angzi even thought he should talk to Nkaway, but Brett Brown told Angzi, you don't have to worry about Michael. This is the path that every rookie must take. They have to learn to adapt to this league, no matter it is on the court. It's still off the court. As a result, Angzi could only watch Nkaway continue to struggle. In the 4th game of the preseason, the 76ers played against the Knicks at home. For the Knicks, who lost their 3-game losing streak, the importance of this game has increased a bit more than the previous game. The Knicks, who were striving for victory, finally got their wish at Wachovia Arena. Of course, they won relatively easily, because the 76ers did not want to fight at all in this game. They used the preseason again. Sci observed the players with training camp contracts. Then, after 4 preseason games, the Sixers once again announced the layoff of 2 players. Because of Cole Aldridge's outstanding performance, the selection of the inside position was suddenly reduced a lot, so the Sixers chose to lay off the power forward Annette Moultrie, and also waived veteran point guard Eric Maynor. The move to lay off Maynor quickly caused controversy, because before that, Henry Abbott made a suggestion that the 76ers should keep Eric Maynor and lay off Nkaway. In terms of his performance in the previous game alone, Eric Maynor was much better than Nkaway. Maynor made 2 of 3 shots, including a 3-pointer, 5 points and 2 assists. Way was 1 of 5 shots, 4 points, 4 rebounds and 3 assists. His offensive performance was still terrible. Comparing the two sides, it seems that the 76ers should cut Nkaway rather than Maynor. But in fact, the 76ers can't give up a rookie number 11. Henry Abbott was unpredictable. The fans were agitated by him and became blind. So the call to cut Nkaway suddenly became louder. To be continued. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletnji. Chapter 365. In the 5th game of the preseason, the 76ers continued to lose. They lost to the Nets, who had just moved to Brooklyn. The 76ers are still taking advantage of the preseason games to observe their training camp contract players. Although Annette Moultrie and Eric Maynor have been waived one after another, there are still as many as the 76ers roster. With 18 players, plus Norrens Knoll, who was reimbursed for the season, there are still 19 players in the roster, but the 76ers have decided to apply for an injury exception for Norrens Knoll. After the application is successful, the team can get an extra spot. Sign one more player. So for the remaining 18 players, the 76ers can still keep 15 players and only need to lay off 3 of them. This season's Brooklyn Nets are considered to be the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. They completed a deal that shocked the league, using Gerald Wallace, Chris Humphries, Tony Senglaya, and the future 3 first-round picks were traded for Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce and Jason Terry from the Celtics. In addition, the Nets also sent out a few basic paid players to increase their bargaining chips. Regarding this deal, the outside world unanimously exclaimed, "Bulletin thinks that Billy King has made a good deal." This deal made the Brooklyn Nets form a terrifying Big Five lineup. All the first 5 players have an annual salary of tens of millions. From the perspective of book strength, the Nets have overwhelmed the Heat and Spurs, becoming the league's first pure strength, and the new season seems to be a strong contender for the championship. In the preseason, the Nets' record is also very good. After beating the Knicks in a row, they have beaten the Celtics in 2 consecutive games. With this victory over the 76ers, the Nets are already preseason. The game has won 5 straight games. The 76ers lost the game to the Nets in Brooklyn's new home field for the Nets. Then, returning to the preseason in Philadelphia, the 76ers chose to let the main players take turns, obviously not paying much attention to the results of the game. In the end, the Nets, who used preseason drills to practice tactics and run into the Big Five, won another victory, but the 76ers won a 3-game losing streak after winning the Knicks. However, the 3-game losing streak did not bring criticism and doubts to the 76ers. It was Nkaway. In this game, he got a chance to start, but his performance was still bad. 2 of 9 shots, 5 points, 4 rebounds and 4 assists. Such statistics are obviously unsatisfactory. Nkaway has long been questioned. This starting game put him away from the abyss of career failure. Go further. Fierce doubts and criticisms from the outside world made Nkaway doubt life, and Angzi also began to worry, is Brett Brown right to let it go? In the seventh game of the preseason, Anzi started the game and led the team to defeat the sluggish Celtics and ended the losing streak. In this game, Anzi scored 27 points, 4 rebounds and 3 assists and performed the best in the game. Well, according to Brett Brown, Anzi no longer needs to prove anything. As for McAway, this game just sat on the bench and didn't get a minute of playing time. After 7 preseason games, the 76ers preseason journey is only the last game left. The opponent is still the Celtics. This game is the last chance for the players with training camp contracts. They start to go crazy. Show yourself, and then, after everyone put out an outstanding performance, help the team beat the Celtics again. As a result, all 8 preseason games ended, and the 76ers ended the preseason schedule with 3 wins and 5 losses. Then, the 76ers had to make the final choice. Who will be laid off? Many people started the discussion early. Before the start of the 8th game of the preseason, McAway appeared on the list of layoffs. Of course, this is the result of the fans' discussions on social networks. The 76ers, it is impossible to cut McAway, but this has had a very big impact on McAway. Before the start of the regular season, McAway's state continued to be in a sluggish state. This downturn gave Henry Abbott the reason to cut McAway. McAway played 7 games in the 8 preseason games, shooting less than 30% from the field. Assists and rebounds are not bad, but McAway there are enough turnovers in the game, averaging 5 turnovers per game in 7 games. Therefore, Henry Abbott believes that McAway simply cannot adapt to the NBA. The 76ers should cut McAway the most. After finishing the preseason journey, Anzi was also called to the office by Brett Brown after a day of training. Anzi's layoffs were solicited. The application for special injury cases has been successful, so the 76ers need to lay off 3 more players. Anzi is still very happy about Brett Brown asking for his own opinions, so he discussed with Brett Brown and Sam Sinke in the office for a while. 3 players were finally determined to be laid off. After the discussion, Sam Sinke and Brett Brown began to prepare for the press conference to be held tomorrow, while an 11 went downstairs alone, and there was a bang in the arena downstairs. This is the sound of basketball hitting the floor, and the sound of basketball hitting iron. Someone has practiced. Anzi pushed open the door of the training hall and glanced inside. Michael. Anzi recognized the number 1 training suit at a glance. It was McAway. This guy works hard, maybe Brett Brown is not doing it right. McAway will certainly not be waived, but the current public opinion environment is really unfavorable for McAway. As a person who has come over, Anzi knows how important confidence is for rookies. Anzi has always been confident. Because he has a jersey system and a firm belief, McAway's current problem is obviously lack of confidence. The overwhelming doubts and criticisms made McAway no longer believe in himself and he lost himself. Therefore, Anzi felt that it was incorrect to let McAway go. At least after the whole preseason, McAway did not find yourself. Anzi stood outside the arena and thought for a while. He decided to help McAway find himself, or in other words, he would help McAway build self-confidence. So Anzi turned around and opened the door decisively. Michael, did you stay here to practice? An 11 pretended to know that McAway was practicing here as soon as he entered the door, and then picked up a basketball from the basket on the side. McAway nodded, and replied absent-mindedly, yes, I've been practicing shooting lately. After Anzi got the basketball, he directly scored a few 3-pointers and hit them all. McAway looked at Anzi for a few moments. He was practicing long-range shots, but Anzi shot a few 3-pointers directly. It was so precise. Isn't this a blow to his self-confidence? Although McAway was stunned for a while, he still made a few more long shots and hit the iron without surprise. Anzi glanced at McAway, and he finally found a chance to interrupt. Michael, are you practicing long shot? Nkaway nodded quickly. Yes, do you have any suggestions? And, I think I haven't improved at all after practicing for so long. The long shot in the game is still very bad. Angzi smiled, and then asked Nkaway an inexplicable question, Michael, why do you want to shoot long in the game? Nkaway was a little confused, but when he heard Angzi's question, Nkaway suddenly found that he couldn't answer Angzi's question. He hesitated. After all, he didn't know what to say. Angzi smiled again. Michael, what do you think is your strength? Nkaway knew the answer this time, and he blurted out, control the rhythm, as well as passes, breakthroughs, steals and rebounds. Yes, it's very important to control the rhythm. Many old NBA point guards can't control the rhythm, but this is not your greatest strength. Your greatest strength is passing and breaking through, but you are the biggest. What is his weakness? Angzi didn't wait for Nkaway's answer and directly said the answer, it's a long shot. You're not good at long shots, so in 7 preseason games, you've been trying long shots. As a result, your shooting percentage is bleak. Other aspects of performance are also very poor, so, Michael, use your strengths and avoid weaknesses. You should know this term, right? Nkaway nodded, but looking at him like this, he obviously didn't understand what Angzi wanted to say. You should avoid your shortcomings, try not to try long shots in the game, make more breakthroughs, more possessions, more passes, and use what you are good at. Nkaway was suddenly surprised, but he still hesitated. But, and, I also made a lot of mistakes. Are you talking about your passing mistakes? N11 smiled. In fact, those mistakes just proved your imagination. Didn't you realize that many of your mistakes were caused by your teammates not receiving your pass? In fact, it's not your responsibility, it's just because your teammates have not adapted to your passing. Really, Nkaway was a little skeptical. Angzi felt that his encouragement was almost the same. Next, it was time to give Nkaway some real confidence. Of course it's true, Michael, I'm still going to let you guide my passing. Nkaway is a little embarrassed. Can I? Of course, your passing is much better than mine, so I think I should ask you for advice. N11 appeared very sincere. Nkaway also nodded. He didn't refuse. As an American, Nkaway still has that kind of careless personality, and he doesn't have so many twists and turns. Then I will talk about a few things to pay attention to in passing. Asking Nkaway to guide his passing is to make Nkaway believe in his passing skills. On the other hand, Angzi feels that he should also improve his passing. It's not enough to score crazy points by himself. Sometimes it is necessary to pull teammates together. On the night before the regular season, Angzi helped Nkaway rebuild confidence. Although I don't know if Nkaway can show the performance that Angzi wants to see, Angzi knows that Nkaway will definitely not be depressed anymore. At least, Nkaway can fill the vacancy of the 76ers point guard. To be continued. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen San Buletinji. Chapter 366. On October 25, 2013, the Philadelphia 76ers held a press conference in their training hall. Prior to this, they had officially announced the layoff of 3 players. And this press conference is to announce the signing of a non-guaranteed official contract with the remaining players. The 3 players laid off are shooting guard Lorenzo Brown, power forward Brandon Davis and center Dwayne Dedmon. In this way, among the remaining players, Elliot Williams, James Anderson, Hollis Thompson, and Byron Mullins signed a 1-year non-profit agreement with the 76ers under the auspices of Sam Hinkie. The guaranteed basic salary is temporarily left in the team, because the contract is a non-guaranteed basic salary, so they may still be waived. The 76ers' 15-man roster was also released. Point guards, Michael Carter-Williams, Sean Livingston, Tony Wroten. Shooting guards, Angzi, James Anderson, Elliot Williams. Small forwards, Evan Turner, Jay Crowder, Francisco Garcia, Hollis Thompson. Power forwards, Thaddeus Young, Henry Sims. Centers, Spencer Hawes, Cole Aldridge, Byron Mullins. Finally, add Enorance Knoll, who has been reimbursed for the season and applied for an injury exception. The 15-man roster was released, and the questioning about Nkaway reappeared, but this time, the questioning was about the strength of the 76ers. Nkaway, Sean Livingston, and Tony Wroten formed the point guard line. How to see how weak the chicken. Faced with the reporter's question about who the 76ers starting point guard is in the new season, Brett Brown did not answer, but in fact, Brett Brown already has the answer. The team training before the press conference was the same all-rounder. Kawhi is back, so the starting point guard for the new season can only be Mka. Nkaway regained his self-confidence, and at the same time he understood that he should use his strengths and avoid weaknesses throughout the team training game. Nkaway was using his breakthroughs, his possession, and his passing, torturing Tony Wroten. Brett Brown did not answer, just because he had to take into account the ideas of other players. He said before that the starting line is a competition and everyone has the opportunity to start, so Brett Brown can't say that the starting line must be Nkaway's. But Brett Brown didn't want to answer. In Henry Abbott's eyes, it turned out that the 76ers could not find a qualified starting point guard. Therefore, before the start of the season, Henry Abbott's final prediction would be the Philadelphia 76ers ranked 12th in the East, and third from the bottom in the East. His reason is very simple. The 76ers can't even make a starting lineup, so there is no need to think about the playoffs. The 12th in the East is the most likely position for the 76ers. In his rookie prediction rankings, Nkaway ranks 62nd among all rookies, which is basically a countdown, and even some undrafted rookies and older rookies have overtaken Nkaway. Another important ranking, in the league player rankings, Angzi was ranked 56th by Henry Abbott. He believes that Angzi will be an all-star in the new season, but only an all-star. Nkaway, ranked 62nd among rookies, is directly the bottom of the league's player rankings. He is ranked 441th out of 446 players in the league. Only 5 players in the league are worse than him. Henry Abbott's ranking is considered to have been recognized to a certain extent, because this is the strength of the 76ers in the preseason, and so is the strength of Nkaway. On the other hand, Zach Lowe's preseason prospects are also it came out soon, but the preseason preview of the data expert who has always been considered an authoritative has attracted countless controversies. First of all, Zach Lowe believes that the Brooklyn Nets, which make up the Big Five, are not the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. He believes that the Nets are only the top 5 teams in the Eastern Conference. The New York Knicks in the new season are not the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. Clovey believes that the new season's Knicks will be the edge of the playoffs team. The rankings of these 2 New York teams have attracted countless controversies for Zach Lowe. After all, one constitutes the Big Five and the other is second in the Eastern Conference last season. The main lineup has not been lost. As for the 76ers, Zach Lowe, the 76ers ranked 9th in the East, which is the edge of the playoffs, just like the New York Knicks. In addition, Zach Lowe also believes that Angzi is the most unpredictable player in the new season. The lack of playing time in the preseason of Angzi is difficult to calculate. In addition, Angzi also has a 56-point performance in a single game, which makes Zach Lowe didn't know where to rank Angzi, and in the end he could only give Angzi a 30th place in the league and added a sentence to the 76ers ranking. The 76ers have a chance to make the playoffs, but it depends on Angzi's performance. In other words, Zach Lowe ranked the 76ers at 9th, which is actually just his conservative ranking. If Angzi performs better, he even thinks that the 76ers should be ranked higher. But, in this way, his colleague Henry Abbott is dissatisfied. In his opinion, Zach Lowe's ranking is completely different from him. This is obviously against him and fighting him. Therefore, Henry A. Burt made a comment on his social media targeting Gawey and Zach Lowe. Because Zach Lowe did not comment on Gawey, and in Henry Abbott's view, the 76ers' biggest weakness is Gawey's number 11 rookie this season, and Zach Lowe's preseason preview the biggest problem in China is the neglect of Gawey. Zach Lowe thinks the Philadelphia 76ers have a chance to make the playoffs, but his remarks are a joke in my opinion. Maybe he ignored Gawey, an 11th rookie destined to be a parallel importer. Maybe I also think that Gawey will become a qualified starting point guard, but in fact, with Gawey's strength, it would be difficult for him to gain a foothold in the league. In the Philadelphia training hall, although autumn has arrived, the summer heat has not yet dissipated. Brett Brown sweated profusely from the sidelines and yelled, and the 76ers on the field were conducting deeper tactical training. Hurry up! Run! Michael, pass the ball. Pass the ball. Don't stick the ball. And, just throw the ball. Just throw the ball. Understand? Don't stick the ball. In short, don't stick to the ball. Brett Brown hopes to see a team that can move the ball quickly. The game will flow smoothly when the ball moves. And the 76ers' biggest advantage, passing, will also be used. Gawey has gradually adapted to the team's tactics, and the only problems in the starting lineup are the lack of an excellent three-point shooter and the lack of a defender. In the starting lineup, only Angzi has the ability to shoot 3 points. Firepower is relatively lacking, and Spencer Hawes's ability to protect the frame is relatively weak. If adjusted, only Cole Aldridge can be the starter, but Brett Brown doesn't know how big the impact of these two issues is. The game has not started yet, and the actual test is the most important. After the training, Angzi collapsed directly on a chair on the sidelines. Gawey handed Angzi a towel. Angzi smiled and said thank you. On the other hand, James Anderson is not as tired as Angzi. After all, Brett Brown is not as hard-working as Angzi as a bench. After training, James Anderson took out his phone and swiped it for a while, and then it was like discovering a new world. The general screamed. Wow, ESPN season preview has come out. Henry Abbott and Zach Lowe have a fight. Angzi smiled, it must be the guy Henry Abbott who hacked us. James Anderson immediately gave Angzi a thumbs up, and is right. Henry Abbott thinks we are the third lowest team in the East, and Zach Lowe thinks that we are the 9th in the East, and even have a chance to break in. Playoffs. And 11 nodded, they are all wrong. All wrong. We are already a playoff team. Haha. Everyone laughed. Now the 76ers are quite optimistic. Under Angzi's leadership. Brett Brown on the side also smiled. This relaxed and confident team atmosphere is a bit like the Spurs, which is a good phenomenon. By the way, Henry Abbott thinks Michael is the league's bottom rookie and the league's bottom player, haha. I think this is the funniest. James Anderson laughed, and the other 76ers also laughed. Up. After the end of the preseason journey, the 76ers have in-team training games almost every day, and Gawey's performance is getting better day by day. In the last few training games in the team, they have played against Angzi. A tie with another team led by Angzi, the current state can be described as hot. Henry Abbott actually said that Gawey is the bottom rookie and player in the league, which is simply a joke. Angzi grinned and said, Henry Abbott thinks his face is not swollen enough. Michael, you can do well in the next game. Gawey's face was always filled with a smile, that kind of confident smile. After he heard an 11's words, he nodded fiercely, I will. The Sixers' opponent in the regular season's first game is the Heat. Gawey has no fear. The opponents are very strong. The Big Three are making a comeback. At the beginning of the season, they met Angzi, who suffered last season. Obviously they will not let go. With this opportunity for revenge, their goal is not victory, but a big victory. The 76ers are already ready to go. Before the start of the regular season, Anzi summed up the bonuses of the jersey system. 3-point attribute bonus of 90, mid-range shooting attribute bonus of 85, single defense attribute bonus of 99, steal attribute bonus of 95, off-ball attribute bonus of 70, back attribute bonus of 80, ball possession attribute bonus of 83, urgent stop jumper attribute bonus 70, breakthrough attribute bonus 60, backward jumper attribute bonus 99, low attribute bonus 70. Coupled with the dual consciousness attribute of around 85, Anzi has also made preparations early in the new season. He is about to start to kill the quartet. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletinji. Chapter 367. On October 30, 2013, U.S. time, the 76ers regular season debut was held at Wachovia Center Arena. Philadelphia fans showed up on the side of the arena with great enthusiasm, with 20,444 seats full. The Heat had already finished a game yesterday. They defeated the Bulls, who still did not have Derrick Rose at home, and achieved their first victory of the new season. Although the game in Philadelphia was back-to-back, the Heat coach David Fizdale was still full of confidence. In the pre-match interview, David Fizdale said that they had already won the victory in his arms. After all, the 76ers are not strong, and there is a lot of debate about the 76ers, but overall the evaluation of the 76ers has not reached the point of a strong team. They are basically bad teams, and the Heat are now the first-class strong team in the league. Comparing the two, there is no problem with David Fizdale saying that he has already embraced the victory. Before the start of the game, Anzi also accepted an interview from the media. Regarding the questions asked by reporters, "Do you have any feelings about the first time you face the Heat after the finals?" Anzi thought a little, and said something amazing: "I'm surprised that David Fizdale didn't finish class." As a result, the reporter who interviewed Anzi was in an uproar, and at the moment they couldn't ask Anzi any more questions. David Fizdale didn't stop the get out of class. Although it seems that this sentence has nothing to do with this game, the reporters keenly discovered that Anzi's sentence is actually a contempt for the Heat. A head coach who was defeated even dared to say that he has won the victory. If he was in his arms, Anzi would naturally fight back fiercely. But in fact, Anzi is not fighting back. He is indeed a little curious about why David Fizdale did not end his get out of class after losing the finals. In fact, what Anzi didn't know was that Pat Riley was ready to play in person, but LeBron James saved David Fizdale. Obviously, LeBron James also understands that once Pat Riley plays in person, now, his life won't be as easy as it is now, and the fortune teller is not so easy to deal with. An 11's fight back at David Fizdale can only be regarded as an episode before the game. Although the media also reported to David Fizdale also responded. He thought Anzi was just making a profit, but the game is about to begin. Obviously, this sentence can only be left temporarily and saved until after the game. If the Heat lose, then for these media reporters, Anzi's counterattack can come in handy. Before the start of the game, the home team's locker room, Brett Brown announced the starting lineup for this game. Kawhi appeared on the starting list. He was relieved, and then smiled on his face. Turner Sports broadcasted the game, and Steve Kerr and Reggie Miller partnered to explain the game. Before the start of the game, Steve Kerr had already gotten the starting list for this game. The 76ers Kawhi stepped onto the starting lineup. There was no change in other positions, while for the Heat, starting point guard Mario Chamos, shooting guard Dwayne Wade, small forward LeBron James, power forward Luke Richard Barmett, center Chris Bosh. After taking a look at the lineup, Steve Kerr said with a smile, the 76ers actually started with Michael Carter Williams, a rookie who can't shoot. Reggie, How many points do you think the Heat will win in this game? Reggie Miller shook his head. Steve, the game hasn't started yet, the Heat may not necessarily win. Oh? Why? Steve Kerr looked surprised. Reggie Miller explained with a smile, first of all, the Heat just finished a fierce battle last night. They defeated the Bulls, but they also consumed a lot of energy. Secondly, the 76ers are not bad. They have the Heat killer Anzi. Didn't Anzi kill the Heat alone in the finals last season, didn't it? Steve Kerr nodded. Perhaps, both sides have a chance in this game, but obviously, the Heat have a better chance. This time, Reggie Miller also nodded. Yes, the Heat have a better chance of winning, but I have a hunch that there will be many unexpected things in this game, and it will also help us unlock many things. Many puzzles, such as the strength of the 76ers. What exactly is Reggie Miller's preview? Steve Kerr is still discussing with Reggie Miller, and on the court, the 76ers and the Heat are ready to start the game, on the sidelines of Wachovia Arena. There was a cheer, some fans raised a cheering card with Anzi's head portrait, plus the crowds of fans wearing the number 7 jersey on the sidelines. The fiery heat of Anzi's Philadelphia was already evident. When he played, Anzi slapped all his teammates, and then patted Nkaway on the shoulder. In fact, Anzi knew very well that in this game, winning or losing is not very important. What is important is Nkaway's performance. As long as Nkaway can come up with the performance in the training game, regardless of whether the 76ers win or lose, they can break free from the storm of public opinion. Players from both sides stood on the court. Spencer Hawes and Chris Bosh scrambled. The referee blew a whistle, the basketball flew high, Chris Bosh won the jump ball, and the game officially began. LeBron James kept holding the ball from beyond the three-point line. Evan Turner kept reaching out to interfere with James one step away. However, James' offensive was very strong. He directly pushed Evan Turner for the first goal in the opening game. Against Turner's defense, rushed into the inside and finished the layup cleanly. 2 points are successful, the Heat looks very good. The 76ers served in the back court, and Nkaway steadily controlled the ball to the front court, which looked quite general. However, Nkaway's poor performance in the preseason was deeply ingrained, so Wachovia's sidelines actually sounded a boo, until Anzi circled the top of the arc and took over the basketball. Defending Anzi is Luke Richard Barmett. The player LeBron James asked to bring in is not a 3D, because he does not have a 3 and only a D. The defense is very strong, but the offense is equal to nothing, so David Fizdale made Bamad a cameo. The fourth position is to defend Anzi. The Heat have professional defensive players, but Anzi still played this ball resolutely. Anzi took the ball with one step outside the 3-second zone, turned back, and then dribbled the ball with his right hand to the left, turned to look to his left. At this time, Anzi has completely attracted the Heat's defensive focus. Although there is no double team, his eyes were placed on Anzi's body. With a stride, Nkaway passed through Anzi's left side, throwing away Mario Chamos, who was focusing on Anzi, and rushed into the restricted area. At the same time, Anzi hit the ground to pass the ball and caught up with Nkaway. Nkaway caught the ball and jumped directly into a dunk. With a slamming sound, the explosion sounded loudly in the Heat's restricted area. Then, with a bang, Wachovia exclaimed. The 76ers fans have not reacted yet, but when they reacted, they did not cheer, because until now they can't believe it, so beautiful. Nkaway and Anzi worked together to complete one of the empty cut dunks of Michael Carter Williams completed a beautiful air-cut dunk. Great. It's Carter Williams, the DJ on the scene couldn't manage so much. He directly raised his voice and shouted, and the scene finally sounded in harmony. There was a burst of cheers. Nkaway looked very excited. This goal was of great significance to him. He jumped to the front, hit his chest to celebrate with Anzi who assisted him, and then raised his hand to the sidelines. Several fans have been infected by Nkaway. They seem to have forgotten that Nkaway is the parallel rookie who was sprayed by them in the preseason. According to one fan, after all, Michael is also our player, isn't he? Our players have performed well, so we should cheer. An air-cut dunk helped Nkaway conquer some fans who once sprayed him, but Steve Kerr in the commentary has been saying one word unexpectedly. Michael Carter-Williams actually completed an empty cut dunk. He actually scored 2 points at the beginning? Isn't his offense very bad? Steve Kerr showed an incredible look. Obviously, he couldn't believe it. It was Nkaway, who was approved as the largest parallel import of the century before the game. Steve Kerr hasn't watched Nkaway's game much, and now Nkaway has shown a general style from possession of the ball to key cuts to dunks. Such a rookie, Stillwater, Steve Kerr was a little puzzled, and he decided to keep watching. To be continued. Super Role Player. Author, Yuen Sanbuletnji. Chapter 368. I don't know, I was shocked at first glance. On the field, the Heat launched an offense. Mario Chamos held the ball to force Nkaway. Nkaway took advantage of his own body, and got stuck in position. Chalmers had a bad offense and naturally thought of passing the ball. LeBron James used the screen to throw away Angzi and rushed to a 45-degree angle to ask for it. Chalmers reached out and prepared to pass the ball to James. But at this moment, Nkaway predicted Chalmers' pass in advance, and then stretched out his long arm and snapped. People only saw the orange basketball bounce off the original flight path in an instant, and then Nkaway dashed out and slapped the bounced basketball. At this time, the fans on the scene really reacted. ZI burst into cheers. Steve Kerr also just reacted, and Reggie Miller was obviously more in shape. He directly yelled in front of Steve Kerr, "Steal!" from Michael Carter-Williams. Then Steve Kerr also yelled, "Michael Carter-Williams, worthy of Michael. He stole Mario Chalmers." Fast break. Nkaway's speed is not fast, but he grabbed an opportunity, so when he rushed to the front court with crazy possession, there was still no defender beside him. When he jumped for a layup, Mario Chalmers waved in vain behind him. Waved, Nkaway succeeded in a layup and scored 2 points. Steal the fast break, scored 2 points, Carter-Williams did a great job. Steve Kerr has almost forgotten the criticisms about Nkaway before the game. He even has some doubts. Did the reporters who wrote articles about Nkaway as a parallel importer watch the game? With these 2 goals alone, as the main point guard of the Bulls dynasty, Steve Kerr can be sure that Nkaway is definitely not a parallel importer, and there is even a lot to do in the new season. After Nkaway steals the fast break, he continues to celebrate wildly. He is so excited. 2 consecutive goals, 4 points in a row, plus 1 steal. Nkaway has conquered Wachovia, and the cheers can finally be complete. The whole catharsis came out. All at once filled the arena. The Heat resurfaced the bottom line against the cheers and reorganized the offense. Mario Chamos was more careful, dribbled through, and then stopped for a jumper. He still wanted to hit Nkaway, but Nkaway defended. He was very old-fashioned, and he used his body to stick to Chalmers. When Chalmers halted his jumper, Nkaway pulled back again and directly blocked Chalmers' shooting angle. With a bang, the ball hit the iron directly. There was a shout from the inside, and Chris Bosh pressed Huss to grab the rebound. Suddenly, an 11 came out from the side, leaped high, stretched out his hand, and took the rebound. "Quick break," Angzi yelled, and then immediately threw the basketball to Nkaway. Nkaway held the ball. After a quick dribble, he rushed to the front court, attracted the defense, and directly divided the ball to the other side. Evan Turner adjusted his posture in the mid-range, then made an open mid-range shot, which hit it with a scream. Then, the Heat's offense still failed to score. Dwayne Wade, against Angzi's defense, made a mid-range shot, but did not score. This time the rebounder became Nkaway. Therefore, for several consecutive rounds, Nkaway has all kinds of data recorded, even the fans on the sidelines who originally clamored to cut Nkaway are a little skeptical. 4 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist and 1 steal. Is this still the parallel product of the preseason? Someone can't believe it. Some people cheered directly for Nkaway. Nkaway. Good job. Rush. And when everyone's focus was on Nkaway, the 76ers scored again. This time it was Angzi's turn to score. The 76ers grabbed the rebound and played a fast break again. Angzi took over the basketball. They rushed to the front court, and the Heat quickly retreated. When they saw Angzi rushing over, they kept retreating inside. After taking Angzi and rushing out of the three-point line, he stopped directly, a slow three-pointer, and entered again with a scream. The 76ers directly hit the Heat with a 9:0. The score also directly became 9:2. The 76ers led by 7 points. This was not over yet. David Fizdale stood on the sidelines and shouted constantly, directing the Heat's offense. But the Heat were also a little impatient at this time. Chalmers took possession of the ball from the outside and directly cooperated with James. Nkaway changed his defense. James made a breakthrough against Nkaway, and Nkaway came out quickly, with a snap, another steal. Fast breaking to the front court, Angzi's speed was faster. Nkaway from behind threw the ball up. Angzi leaped high in the air, caught the basketball in the air, and dunked heavily into the basket. Air dunk dunks. Steals from Nkaway. And assists, the DJ on the scene shouted, cheered and broke through the ceiling of the arena. Nkaway's second steal and second assist in this game. The game has just begun, Steve Kerr shouted. Reggie Miller then said with a smile, Nkaway's performance is too good. He received a lot of criticism before the game. Perhaps he has turned these criticisms into motivation, but what is certain now is that Nkaway is definitely not a parallel import. Steve Kerr nodded immediately. Although he was also laughing at Nkaway before the game, after watching so many balls, he also knew that he was brought to the rhythm by those unscrupulous reporters. 11:2. The 76ers scored 11 points in a row. David Fizdale couldn't stand it anymore and called a timeout. Steve Kerr believed that David Fizdale's timeout should be earlier, because the 76ers' the second fast break to grab rebounds started, and the Sixers' momentum came out, but Pat Riley did not personally come to the scene to supervise the game in this game, so David Fizdale's command did not seem so old. The 76ers stopped the Heat at the beginning. The outcome of this game is far from certain. Now we can even say that the 76ers have a greater chance of winning. Reggie Miller said, and Steve Kerr continued nodding. The timeout ended soon, and David Fizdale did not make too many adjustments. He just let James take the ball and attack more, hoping to end this scoring drought with the power of the star. However, after the timeout came back, the two teams first fell into a wave of iron fights. First, LeBron James broke through the long shot and hit the iron. Angzi's mid-range shot also hit the edge of the basket, and then LeBron James' layup continued to fail. Evan Turner's CIC also missed. After hitting the iron, the first to open the goal account was actually the 76ers. Angzi broke through the defense of Luke Richard Barmott and rushed to the inside to complete the layup. Finally, he scored 2 points, and the 76ers also got 13:2. Leading the Heat by 11 points, extending the difference to double digits. David Fizdale stood nervously on the sidelines. This time he didn't yell, just watched the team's offense with his chest, which looked very good. Dwayne Wade flashed Angzi's defense and made a mid-range shot. But, with a bang, the iron was still struck. David Fizdale just felt his heart tremble suddenly, and then suddenly opened his mouth. Rebound. Rebound. But Nkaway, who rushed to the inside, once again received his rebounds. His second rebound of the game, 4 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists and 2 steals. Nkaway's statistics are rising at the same time. To be continued.